Everybody ready? They're ready upstairs.
Just call me Mr. DeMar.
Everybody ready? Ready upstairs. All right, good evening, everybody. This is the June 17th, 2015 meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Smithtown. We're going to begin it with the Pledge of Allegiance, and you're all invited to join in, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The Planning Department recommends the following items for adjournment due to insufficient info. Number 1, 2012-04 Storybook Homes, Nesconset. Number 2, 2012-02 Carlson Associates, Kings Park. Number 3, 2009-05 FB4 Realty. Number 4, 773 Scholar Estates, Comac. Number 5, 1135 Tuami Platte, St. James. Number 6, 280A Olivia Estates. Number 7, 1039 Garden Gate, St. James. Number 8, 2010-06 KVC Holdings. Number 9, 911A Glen Hill Northern, St. James.
Is there anybody present on the items that were just read regarding which the Planning Department is requesting an adjournment? Seeing none, a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn the items as recommended by the board, by the department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? So adjourned.
The next item on the agenda, number 10, 1127.1 Catherine Estates. The applicant requests to retroactively extend the performance bond approval for a period of 2 years to end on April 20th, 2017, in order to obtain more time to complete construction and all necessary improvements. The applicant received conditional final approval for this 2-lot subdivision from the Planning Board on April 20th, 2011. The performance bond estimate in the amount of $22,365 was approved by the board and subsequently signed by the chairman. The applicant submitted the bond monies and all related materials to the town, and the town board accepted a passbook in lieu of performance bond on November 17th, 2011. On December 4th, 2013, the Planning Board approved a retroactive extension of performance bond approval, which expired on April 20th, 2015. The applicant submitted a performance bond extension application on April 17th, 2015 to the Planning Department, and the application was distributed to all departments concerned for review. The applicant was indicated he is not able to build at this time, but is putting the property on the market with hope of selling. The engineering and highway departments have no objection to the performance bond extension request and have determined that the bond amount is sufficient to cover all remaining improvements. The traffic safety department has no comment. The planning department has determined that the construction has not yet begun on the subdivision. Therefore, the planning department has no objection to the applicant's request. The planning department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Be it resolved that the planning board hereby approves a retroactive extension of the performance bond for the subdivision known as Catherine Estates for a period of 2 years to expire on April 20th, 2017.
Good evening. I know we've had other matters on this particular application before. Just please give your name and address for the record, and I believe you are the applicant on this one, correct?
Dan Hickey, 52 Darling Avenue, Smithtown, New York.
And do you have the affidavit of posting? Could you hand it in over to the planning staff, please?
Thank you.
Okay, you've heard the review and analysis by the planning department and the proposed resolution that they are recommending that we pass tonight,
Thank you.
and you're in agreement with all that?
Yes.
Anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this particular matter? Are there any questions from any member of the board on this particular matter? Seeing none, a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adopt the resolution as proposed by the department. In the matter of Catherine Estates, number 1127.1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. That motion carries unanimously, and that resolution is adopted. Thank you very much.
Have a nice summer.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is number 11, Samantha Estates, subdivision 1123. The applicant is requesting an extension of the performance bond estimate approval in order to be able to file the map. The approval for this subdivision expired on August 5th, 2014. The reason for the extension is that the map has to be refiled. The map of Samantha Estates 1123 was granted conditional final approval by the Planning Board on May 5th, 2010. The board granted the applicant 8 retroactive 90-day extensions of the final approval on April 3rd, 2013 that expired on May 5th, 2013. On May 2nd, 2013, the board granted an additional 90-day extension to expire on August 5th, 2013. On August 21st, the board granted the applicant an additional 90-day extension to November 5th, 2013. On November 6th, 2013, the board granted an additional 90-day extension, which expired on February 5th, 2014. Another extension was granted by the board, which expired on August 5th, 2014. The Planning Department has no objection to the applicant's request. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby grants a 90-day retroactive extension of time to the conditional final approval for the subdivision known as Map of Samantha Estates 1123, beginning August 5th, 2014 through November 5th, 2014. And be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby grants a 90-day retroactive extension of time to the conditional final approval for the subdivision known as Map of Samantha Estates 1123, beginning November 5th, 2014 through February 5th, 2015. And be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby grants a 90-day retroactive extension of time to the conditional final approval for the subdivision known as Map of Samantha Estates 1123, beginning February 5th, 2015 through May 5th, 2015. And be it further resolved that the Planning Board hereby grants a 90-day retroactive extension of time to the conditional final approval for the subdivision known as Map of Samantha Estates 1123, beginning May 5th, 2015 through August 5th, 2015.
Good evening, sir. Are you here on behalf of the applicant on this matter?
Yes, I am.
Please give your name and address and your relationship to the applicant for the record.
Thomas Purcell Charlie, 2137 Deer Park Avenue, Deer Park, New York. I'm the attorney.
Do you have the affidavit of posting?
Yes, I
Can you
do.
please hand it in to the planning staff? Have you heard, did you hear the review and analysis by the planning department and the recommendation for the 4 resolutions they want us to pass this evening?
Yes, I did.
Are you in agreement with all of that?
Yes, I am.
Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this particular matter? Are there any questions from any member of the board on this particular matter? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for one motion to adopt all 4 of the resolutions that were just read.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adopt in regard to Samantha Estates number 1123, all 4 resolutions as recommended by the department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? That motion is carried unanimously. Those 4 resolutions are adopted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Very efficient of you. Good for you.
Just common sense.
Yes, I thought so too.
The next item on the agenda is number 12, a Tier 2 telecommunications application, TC 2015-01, SMSA Limited Partnership, Comac. Number 1, reason for report. The Planning Board will conduct a public hearing on June 17, 2015 to consider the above reference application for a special exception for a personal wireless service facility pursuant to Chapters 242 and 322 30.3b of the Smithtown Town Code. Number 2, applicant, SMSA Limited Partnership, Verizon Wireless, Amada Law Group, 666 Old County Road, Suite 901, Garden City, New York 11530. Site. This site is an irregularly shaped parcel developed with a 3-story office building and related parking located at 2171 Jericho Turnpike, Comac. The building currently has 2 wireless facilities collocated on the roof. Number 4, zoning and land use. Site, WSI office building, north. R43 church, single-family residences, south. WSI SCB boat sales, retail stores, and restaurant. East, WSI R43 repair garage, restaurant, Sunken Meadow Parkway. West, WSI R10 bowling alley, retail stores, and single-family residence. Number 5, staff report. Pursuant to Chapter 242 of the Town Code, this proposal requires an application to the Planning Board for a special exception for a Tier 2 telecommunications facility. However, recent federal legislation and directives under Chapter 6409 of the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act of 2012, codified at 28 U.S.C. Chapter 1455 and Report and Order Number 14-153, clarifying the Act, advised that a streamlined process should be employed. TRA Section 6409 sets forth that a state or local government may not deny and shall approve any eligible facilities requested for modification of an eligible support structure that does not substantially change the physical dimensions of such structure. More specifically, Section 6409 of the TRA provides as follows. Section 409, wireless facilities deployment. A, facility modifications. Number 1, in general, notwithstanding Section 704 of the Telecommunications Act of 1996 or any other provisions of the law, a state or local government may not deny and shall approve any eligible facilities requests for a modification of an existing wireless tower or base station that does not substantially change the physical dimensions of such tower or base station. Number 2, eligible facilities request. For the purpose of this subsection, the term eligible facilities request means any request for a modification of an existing wireless tower or base station that involves A, collocation of new transmission equipment, B, removal of transmission equipment, or C, replacement of transmission equipment. Further pursuant to the TRA order, when an applicant asserts in writing that a request for modification is covered by this section, a state or local government may require the applicant to provide documentation or information only to the extent reasonably related to determining whether the request meets the requirements of this section. A state or local government may not require an applicant to submit any other documentation, including but not limited to documentation intended to illustrate need for the wireless facility. This application meets the TRA standards for an application that must be reviewed in a streamlined process that must be approved by the municipality because the site is an existing base station. The proposed additional facility will not increase the height of the facility by 10% or by 10 feet, and the proposal does not substantially change the physical dimensions of the base station. Recommended decision. The Planning Department acknowledges that this application is not subject to review under Chapter 242 of the Town Code and recommends approval of this application as it meets the standards for approval of proposed changes to an existing facility under Chapter 6409 of the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act of 2012. The Board must await a secret determination from the Department of Environment and Waterways before taking any action to approve this petition.
Anybody present on behalf of the applicant on this matter? Please come up to the microphone, give your name and address, and your relationship to the applicant. Also, before you go up there, do you have the affidavit of posting?
Yes,
Might as well just hand it in right now. Sure.
And did you drop something as you got up?
Yes, I think you might have, right over there.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Simone Freeman of Amato Law Group, PLLC, 666 Old Country Road, Garden City, New York, 11530. I am here appearing on behalf of the applicant, New York SMSA Limited Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless. Verizon Wireless is a public utility under the laws of the state of New York. Verizon Wireless holds and maintains 6 federal licenses to operate on 4 different frequencies. As noted earlier, the property is located at 2171 Jericho Turnpike and is currently improved with a 3-story office building and also existing telecommunications facilities. As noted earlier, Verizon Wireless proposes to install a wireless telecommunications facility. Specifically, Verizon plans to install 12 antennas and equipment entirely on the rooftop of the building. In addition, we will be locating our equipment room in the basement of the building, And it will, in essence, replace an existing equipment room that was utilized by another carrier, which has since ceased to operate at the building. In addition to that, there will be a generator enclosed in a sound enclosure located on the roof, which will take up approximately 35 square feet in area. As noted earlier, and indicated in the June 11th, 2015 Planning Department memo, Verizon Wireless's proposed communication facility requires a special exception permit for a Tier 3 communication facility. However, recent federal legislation and directives advise that a streamlined process should be employed in reviewing Verizon's application for a special exemption permit. Such federal legislation and directives include Section 2409 of the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act of 2012, or the TRA, and the Federal Communications Commission order clarifying the TRA, which was adopted on October 21st, 2014, or the TRA order. Pursuant to Section 6409A1 of the TRA, a state or local government may not deny and shall approve any eligible facility request for modification of an eligible support structure that does not substantially change the physical dimensions of the structure. Now, the term eligible facilities request is also defined in the TRA as any request for a modification of an existing wireless base station that involves the co-location of new transmission equipment, such as the case here. Verizon Wireless will co-locate new equipment on a building which already has other carriers developed there and operating there. Moreover, the TRA order provides that once an applicant has asserted in writing that a request for a modification is covered by Section 6409A2 of the TRA, that a state or local government may only require the applicant to provide documentation of information sufficient to determine whether the application qualifies as an eligible facilities request. The proposed communication facility meets the requirements of the TRA and the TRA order. As indicated in the June 11, 2015 Planning Department memo, the application qualifies as an eligible facilities request under the TRA. In order to qualify as an eligible facilities request, 3 criteria must be met. First, the communication facility must be located at a site where there are existing communication facilities. Here, Verizon Wireless will co-locate on the rooftop of a building which is already developed with existing carriers. Indeed, Verizon will be taking the place, in essence, of a carrier which was existing and has since terminated its lease at the facility, at the building. 2, the new facility must not exceed 10% of the height of the existing antennas or by 10 feet, whichever is greater. Here, Verizon Wireless's proposed antennas and equipment are located below the height of the existing antennas, in some locations by as much as 9 feet lower than the existing. The third criteria is that there can be no substantial change in the physical dimensions of the existing base station, or in this case, the building. Here, there will be no substantial change in the physical dimensions of the existing base station. In essence, as noted before, Verizon Wireless will be locating its equipment within an area previously occupied by another carrier in the basement. The only increase in dimension will be minimal, and that will be as a result of the generator, which is approximately 35 square feet. In addition, the proposed communication facility also complies with the location, siting, design, and safety standards set forth in the wireless ordinance. The communication facility is utilizing an opportunity site, which would be the existing building rooftop, which is developed with existing communications facilities. As depicted in the visual report and photo simulations prepared by All Points Technology in January of 2015, which should be provided in your packets. If not, we have copies, demonstrates that, firstly, the proposed communication facility will blend with the existing building, rooftop structures, rooftop equipment, and existing communication facilities on the rooftop. The antennas will be of neutral color and flush mounted to the building, so that they blend with the building and the existing antennas that are located on top of the building. The antennas will also blend with the architecture of the existing building, as well as the existing communication facilities, antennas, bulkheads, equipment, and stair penthouse. Additionally, the proposed antennas would not significantly differ from the existing conditions as they are there with respect to the visual character of the building and the existing communications facilities. Indeed, the proposed antennas are lower than the existing antennas on the building that maintained by other carriers, and/or will be flush mounted to the building, whereas the existing antennas are ballast mounted, which means that they protrude upward into the visual view shed. There will also be limited visibility of the antennas and the generator from the surrounding area. In the instances in which there is slight visibility, these viewpoints are from commercial locations, the street mainly, and there are already antennas within that view shed as it is. So it will not change the existing condition and the existing overall viewpoint and view shed from any viewpoint. As noted in the zoning drawings prepared by Structural Construction Services and last revised on March 13th, 2015, the facility will be designed to meet and/or exceed the requirements of the New York State building and fire codes. Given that Verizon Wireless has demonstrated that the application qualifies as an eligible facilities request, which shall be approved pursuant to a streamlined process, we would also respectfully request that a complete site plan exemption from the Board of Site Plan Review be granted. Finally, with respect to RF emissions, and as noted in the FCC Antenna Compliance and Assessment Report prepared by Pinnacle Telecom Group dated February 3rd, 2015, the maximum RF exposure in this instance is 9.2596% of the FCC maximum permissible exposure limit. That's less than 10% of the maximum amount that's permitted by the FCC standards, and it's well below the FCC's compliance limit. In conclusion, we respectfully submit that the requirements necessary for the issuance of a special use permit and also that the requirements under the TRA and the TRA order have been met by Verizon Wireless. Therefore, the applicant respectfully requests that the Planning Board close the hearing, issue a negative declaration under SECRA, and grant the Tier 2 special exemption application as further recommended by the Planning Department memo on June 11, 2015. Finally, we'd also request an exemption from site plan review. Unless there's any further questions, we're happy
I don't have any questions of you at this point, but I have two of Mr. Flynn. Has your staff, I presume your staff has looked into this matter, and you can confirm that this subject facility, which is the subject of this application, is an eligible facility as defined in the federal statute that was referred to in the memo?
Yes, based on all of the facts that I've seen, it is eligible.
And also, based upon the documentation that's been provided to you, can you also confirm that the proposed modifications will not substantially change the physical dimensions of that site?
Based on all the information I've seen, the answer is yes.
So based upon those two yeses, it would appear that under the federal law, the application would have to be granted. However, you've indicated that we still need to hear from our DEW regarding SECRA before we can take a position on SECRA. Is that also correct?
That there's a chapter in the town code that says that boards cannot approve actions without first obtaining a recommendation from the town Department of Environment and Waterways. It's not my expertise to say whether or not you have to follow the town code, but it seems prudent.
Well, I think it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
I think that if it's there, it probably should be followed.
Yeah,
That's a good idea. But have you been in touch with anybody at DEW as to what type of time frame we're looking at for them to give us their determination so that we can make a declaration as to SECRA?
I have not. I can call tomorrow or email tomorrow morning.
Just I'm thinking in terms of trying to reschedule the continued hearing when we do take action on this application. How much time do they need? I know we're not going to meet we only meet once in July.
Okay.
So our next meeting is July 15th, I believe.
That's true.
Okay.
Um,
Mr. Chairman, if I could interject just for 1 second, was the applicant asking us to waive waiting for secret determination or not? Because I thought you had said you wanted us to
Well,
waive
it really
waiting.
doesn't matter, we're not waiting, we're not waiving anything.
Right, understood. I just
We're
wanted to
gonna
be
wait
sure.
We're going to wait for, according to Mr. Flynn, under the town code, we have to get a determination from DEW regarding secret before we can take any action. So really, at this point, the only thing we should do is adjourn the hearing until we get the determination from DEW. And I'm just trying to find out what's a good time frame, because I don't want to have these people come back for nothing.
Yes. And
Come
just
back
to-
and say, okay, we're still waiting for that, for that recommendation. I mean, it is something that, we expect that we're going to be able to move forward with this, but we have to go through the process.
Yes, and we actually, to clarify, we requested that the board issue a negative declaration under secret. So you would do the review and then whatever you,
Well,
you know.
but before we can do that, we have to
Exactly,
get
yes,
their
we need to get their
the
recommendation.
DEW's recommendation, and then we can make our
yes.
our declaration. I'm just trying to see the time frame, if you think it's within reasonable time to have it on for July 15th. I don't want to put it on to have them come back for nothing.
Agreed, agreed.
Obviously, I don't know, since I'm not part of the Department of Environment and Waterways.
And we have one meeting in August.
Right.
I don't know offhand which particular day that is.
Yeah.
How about we do that?
That's up to the
You know
board.
what? I mean, I don't want to take a chance. I can't get any. He hasn't been in touch with them specifically to give you an idea as to how long they're going to take to give us the recommendation. So rather than having you come back on July 15th and perhaps be told, oh, we don't have the recommendation yet, we'll adjourn it to our August meeting. We only meet once in August. Hopefully by then, they'll have the recommendation, and then we can take the appropriate action.
Yes, that would be fine. We appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions from any members of the board? Before we do that, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter? Okay? Any questions from any members of the board on this matter?
Just a comment to staff, in the future, that if we are notified that we must await CEQA determination from DEW, then perhaps it might behoove staff to call ahead so they can give us a definitive answer as to when the report would be issued.
We'll do that.
And I have just two minor questions, just for clarification. It says here there are currently 2 wireless facilities on the roof. Are they Verizon facilities or somebody else's?
No, they are not. One is maintained by Metro PCS, and the other is, I believe, is OmniPoint. AT&T is also proposing, which is noted in our plans, a site as well, which is not currently operating yet.
All right, and just for clarification, what's the definition of a 2-tier communications facility as opposed to 1 or 3 or?
It's one that wouldn't qualify as one. It goes based on the standards set forth in the town code. And tier 2s do not qualify as tier 1 because they're not utilizing existing or new utility poles, existing flag poles, transmission tower lines, public water tanks, and they, in order to place a personal wireless services facility on a building and for it not to be concealed, it would be considered a tier 2.
Okay. And then in my case, as in the past, because my firm represents Verizon, though Verizon is a separate entity from Verizon Wireless, I will abstain from voting.
Sure.
Okay. So essentially, you want to modify an existing facility, and what you're going to do is not going to substantially change the dimensions of that facility.
Yes, we will be modifying an existing base station, which is the building, to co-locate our antennas as well, but we will not be changing anything else.
So that, under the federal law, you have a pretty good chance of having your application approved.
We hope so.
Okay. With that being said, Mr. D'Amato, you're going to abstain on this. We're just going to adjourn it, but
Yes.
if we could have a motion to adjourn it to the August meeting? Adjourn this matter to the August meeting?
All right, I so move that we adjourn this meeting, matter to the August meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. One abstention. So we're going to, this matter will be adjourned to the August meeting. Dave, do you have the calendar as to which?
12th.
August 12th. I just want her to know now. So it'll be on August 12th. Hopefully by then, our Department of Environment and Waterways will give us the memo on the SECRA. We could take the action on the SECRA, and we can go forward and conclude the matter at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next item on the agenda is number 13, an amendment of a lot line, Pavaromo Cox, Smithtown. The applicant is requesting an amendment of lot lines for the properties located on the north side of Oakside Drive, east side of Lanning Avenue, Smithtown, to transfer 5,648 square feet of property from tax map number 835-320.2, which is lot number 2, to tax map number 835-320.1 to lot number 1, in order to increase the property size of the property of lot 1. Both lots will meet the minimum area and frontage for the zoning district. It appears that the survey received by the planning department shows a proposed lot line that meanders between existing trees and existing retaining walls that have not received building permits. Lot 2 recently obtained approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals, case number 17272. The variances were to increase retaining wall height from 6 feet to 9 feet and to reduce distance from 3 feet to 0 feet for the retaining walls. Also, lot number 2 obtained LWRP approval as well as Coastal Consistency Review number 20014-08. The engineering department has objected to the lot line amendment because the property owner has not been issued a building permit for the 2 existing retaining walls on the property. However, it seems that the permit issue can be resolved if the lot line amendment application is approved. The Highway Department and Traffic Safety Department have no objection to the lot line amendment. The Planning Department has concerns with the proposed lot line amendment, as the proposal will not make it clear as to who will own each portion of the walls. The 2-tiered stone walls are clearly on lot 1, while the single-tier paving stone wall straddles both lots, creating a potential conflict. Be it resolved, the Planning Department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. An amendment of lot lines for the properties known as 835-320.2 and number 835-320.1 so as to convey approximately 5,648 square feet from lot 835-320.2 to lot 835-320.1 by the survey prepared by Fowler Associates PC dated April 1st, 2014, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, this amendment of lot lines shall be filed in the office of the Suffolk County Clerk. Number 2, the applicant shall submit copies of all filed documents, including deeds with the meets and bounds descriptions with the date stamp and file numbers, to the Planning Department. Number 3, valid certificates of occupancy for both parties, including all structures as depicted on the survey prepared by Fowler Associates PC dated April 1st, 2014, shall be submitted to the Planning Department. Number 4, a restrictive covenant shall be filed for both lots on a form acceptable to the town attorney, agreeing to share in maintenance and future repair of the retaining wall.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant, Mr. Poveromo, is here tonight also. I just didn't hear the last condition recommended by the
Can
planning.
you just reread number
Yes.
4?
Number 4 is a restrictive covenant shall be filed for both lots on a form acceptable to the town attorney, agreeing to share in maintenance and future repair of the retaining wall.
Just to give the board a little history, I know they're recommending approval, but we started about 1.5 years ago with this trek, and finally got BZA approval. We've got LWRP approval, which, as you know, the LWRP really is a town board sitting as a local waterfront improvement body. So it's been a long time coming. The way the lot line amendment works out is it's more likely that this property be on Mr. Cox's lot than on Mr. Poveromo's lot, and that's why we did this application. So again, we asked the board for its favorable consideration. We will take care of those conditions. Thank you.
By the way, that piece of paper I saw you hand up to Matthew before you came up, was that the affidavit of posting?
Yes, it was.
Okay. All right. Anybody in the audience want to be heard on this? Are there any questions from any members of the board on this application?
Good. Well, one quick question. So that the slate patio that's on lot 2, now that goes to lot 1?
That's correct, yes.
And as far as the agreeing of, maintaining the retaining wall, how would that work out, like as far as
I'm
homeowners.
sorry, I can't hear you.
How would that work out as far as insurance, as far as liability? Was that also shared if there's any issues with
Well,
retaining wall
once
between
it's
both properties?
transferred, the liability for that piece of property would be on Mr. Cox's property and not Mr. Poveromo's anymore. I don't know, did you see, I know you have the map,
yep.
but you have a small one, I guess. Yeah, there's a patio on, there's, I think, 2 patios.
Yes, it looks like it was
And,
just combined to one.
Yeah, you can see the retaining wall. So that all will be Mr. Cox now.
Okay.
And the maintenance of the, and future repair of the wall is going to be covered by the covenant.
Yes.
So whoever has that obligation that's going to be in the covenant, should they fail to fulfill that obligation, then if something happens, then, you know, the liability will go probably to that person. But, you know, that's all hypothetical.
Okay, that's fine.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Motion, please, on this application?
Mr. Chairman, in the matter of Cox Poveromo, motion to adopt the resolution as recommended by the department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? That motion carries unanimously, and that resolution is adopted. Thank you very much.
The next item on the list is number 14, number 1156, map of open meadow, Fort Salonga. The request is to subdivide a 2-acre parcel of land into 2 1-acre single-family residential lots that do not comply with the area, frontage, and setback requirements of the zoning ordinance. This application was made in 2012 with the applicant's understanding that the existing rear home on the lot was a lawful, non-conforming use. However, the applicant was never able to prove that the home was non-conforming and was apparently constructed in violation of the zoning ordinance in the 1980s. In 2014, the applicant expressed his desire to proceed with the application anyway, and the planning department advised him that several variances from the Board of Zoning Appeals are necessary for the planning board to approve the plat. Section 277 of the town law prohibits planning boards from approving subdivisions that are not in compliance with the zoning unless the subdivision is a cluster subdivision wherein the planning board approves variances, and further provided that the variances do not increase the number of lots that would be permitted if the subdivision fully complied with the zoning. Smithtown zoning ordinance authorizes the planning board the additional power to approve variances in subdivisions that are not cluster subdivisions, provided that the certain criteria listed on the zoning ordinances are met. 10 of the variances necessary for this subdivision to be approved do not meet the criteria. On January 7th, 2015, the planning board conducted public hearing and adjourned it to allow the applicant to apply to the BZA for variances. On April 20th, the applicant applied to the BZA, and on May 12th, the BZA conducted a public hearing. Pursuant to Section 277.6 of the town law, a BZA must request the planning board provide a written recommendation concerning the proposed variance. In a letter dated May 14th, the BZA requested a recommendation. On June 3rd, the planning board conducted a public hearing to consider a recommendation. Prior to the hearing, the planning department prepared a memo including an analysis and a recommendation to the recommended denial. At the hearing, the department explained that due to a proofreading error, one of the reasons for recommending denial was unfair. That reason included a reference to the narrow nature of the proposed driveway. However, in February, the planning department had recommended that the driveway be made as narrow as possible. The board adjourned the hearing and suggested that the applicant and the planning department meet to see if there could be a meeting of the minds relative to the driveway width. The board also asked the department to report on the steepness of the slopes on the property. Lot 1, the rear. Reduce minimum road frontage from 40 feet to 25 feet. Reduce minimum lot width from 150 feet to 25 feet. Reduce minimum rear yard depth from 100 feet to 75 feet. Increase the maximum paving in the front yard from 25% to 40%. Increase the maximum paving in the side yard from 25% to 88%. Lot 2, the front. Reduce minimum lot width from 150 feet to 121 feet. Reduce minimum side yard depth from 24 feet to 23, existing. Reduce minimum lot area from 43,560 square feet to the approximate 38,528 square feet. Disturb environmentally sensitive land, steep slopes. Build within 10 feet of environmentally sensitive land, steep slopes. Pursuant to Section 267B of the town law, in order to decide whether to approve a variance, the BZA must weigh the benefit to the applicant in comparison to the determinant to the public, detriment of the public. It seems redundant for the planning board to apply the same considerations when making a recommendation to the BZA. It is more likely that the purpose of requiring advice from the planning board is to obtain information concerning any impact the variance may have on the normal considerations of the planning board for deciding whether to approve subdivisions that do not involve variances. The considerations include access, flooding, erosion, the retention of topography and vegetation, the adequacy of infrastructures, utilities, traffic safety, convenient circulation of motorists and pedestrians, and fiscal impacts. The variances will permit the subdivision of a 1.9 acre lot, not including 0.1 acres of environmentally sensitive lands, into 2 lots in a 1 acre district. The variance would also permit the subdivision of a 146-foot wide lot into 2 lots in a district that requires 150 feet per lot. Thus, the variance would result in a 5% increase in density based on lot area and 105% increase in density based on frontage. The proposed layout creates a flag lot. One house would front on the road and the other house would be located in the rear. The front lot would have 121 feet of frontage and the rear lot would have 25 feet of frontage. The rear lot would be about 146 feet wide where the house would be. Field inspection and aerial photographs reveal that almost all homes in Fort Salonga are visible from the street. Most lots are over 150 feet wide by 300 feet deep, and most houses are set back approximately 60 feet from the street. Only about 2% are not visible from the street. Approximately 1,139 homes are in Fort Salonga. Only 1.2%, 14, are on flag lots. The planning board has approved only 5 flag lots and none in the past 29 years. The average area of approved flag lots is 1.7 acres. The variance would likely result in several adverse effects. A house behind a house would increase the potential of police, fire, and emergency medical services having difficulty finding the house in the rear. A house in the rear would be approximately 700 feet to the nearest hydrant. A house in the rear would reduce the privacy of the rear yards of the front lot and the lot to the west. A driveway for the house in the rear would increase the noise and fumes near the homes of the front lot and the lot to the west. This office has found that a disproportionate number of zoning violations are on lots not visible from public highways. It is important to emphasize that permitting a flag lot here would not likely create a precedent because the circumstances are unique. A thorough review of the tax maps and topographic maps covering all of Fort Salonga reveal no lots with similar circumstances. This lot has almost enough area for both lots to meet the minimum lot area requirements. There is no realistic potential for any adjacent subdivision to create a tap street to access the rear of this lot. Almost all of the surrounding area has already been subdivided. Other large lots further east on Sunken Meadow Road have much more environmentally sensitive lands and have only about 1/3 the frontage of this parcel. If the BZA determines that the variances be granted in order to permit a second house, an alternative is to have 2 lots of the same approximate frontage instead of a front lot and a flag lot. This would be better from a safety perspective, but worse from a neighborhood character perspective. If the planning board wishes to recommend approval, the planning department recommends that the ideal widths of the driveway and flagpole be 10 feet and 25 feet respectively. This pavement width is enough for any emergency vehicles, yet narrow for better sustainability, less potential for problems relative to drainage and community character. If the driveway has Belgian block curbs, vehicles can easily drive on the shoulder if necessary because the reveal of Belgian block curbs is only about 4 to 5 inches. The shoulders should be level and should not have shrubs or trees within 3 feet of the pavement. Also, a pavement widening of 20 feet by approximately 20 feet plus tapering should be provided approximately midway along the approximate 300-foot length of the driveway to allow opposing vehicles to pass each other. Driveway plowing will likely be difficult in major snowstorms. However, the 7-foot shoulders should be more than adequate for snow storage without blocking the driveway or encroaching on adjacent properties. Omitting curbs would make plowing easier. It appears that the environmentally sensitive land on this track consists of slopes ranging from 15% to approximately 50%. However, a more in-depth look reveals that the 50% slopes were created in connection with the construction of the retaining wall on the east side of the existing house. The planning department has consistently opined that only natural slopes are considered as environmentally sensitive land. Therefore, The actual environmentally sensitive land has slopes ranging from 15% to 20%. These slopes will not be affected by the proposed subdivision. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Be it resolved that the Planning Department hereby recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals deny the variances associated with the subdivision known as Open Meadow 1156 for the following reasons. A flag lot would increase the potential of slower response time of police, fire, and emergency services because the home would be difficult to see from the street. Number 2, a home behind the existing home would reduce the privacy of the front lot and the lot to the west. Number 3, a long driveway to the house behind the existing house would create unwarranted noise and fumes adjacent to the existing home on the property and the home to the west. A flag lot would tend to increase the potential for noncompliance with zoning.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I don't really understand the recommendation. The first couple of pages are negative, and the last page, half of it is positive. So I guess the planning department is kind of betwixt as to what they're saying, except that at the end they recommend denial, which of course I don't understand. But just to bring out a few points.
But before you do that, Mr. Tremarco, do you mind if I just ask a couple of questions?
Not at all.
The first thing is, before you go forward, I'm sure you see that we are missing a member here tonight. And I believe that in order for, if this was going to pass, you would need 3 votes, meaning a majority of the board, so that with 4 people here, you could possibly have a tie. And I don't know how, obviously, how everybody's going to vote, but you could have a tie, which means that you don't get your relief. That's something I just wanted to point out. I'm sure you realize that. I wanted to just point that out. But I just have a question or two to ask of the planning department regarding the memo, and specifically on the second page, towards the middle, where it says, field inspection and aerial photographs reveal that almost all homes in Fort Salonga are visible from the street. Well, did that inspection and those photographs take into account every home in Fort Salonga?
Yes. Yeah.
How many homes would that have been?
About 1,100.
Okay. And it also says that most homes are set back 60 feet from the street.
Correct.
And when you say most, you must mean that at least one more than half?
Thank you.
Most?
Yeah, it does mean more than that. More than that.
More than half?
Correct.
Now, from my estimate, I think 60 feet would be about from where I'm sitting to the wall. And to me, that seems close, but, you know, I could be wrong. And the 2% not visible from the street, was the entire hamlet of Fort Salonga canvassed so that every house was checked to see whether it's visible from the street to come up with that 2% figure?
I missed a word.
In other words, it says only about 2% are not visible from the street.
Correct.
So that conclusion, is that supported by a canvassing of every house in Fort Salonga to make a determination? I can see this one from the street, I can't see that one from the street, to come up with that 2% figure. Because I don't know how else you would do that.
Sure.
Was that what was done?
The answer is a little bit more complicated. We looked at all of the homes on an aerial photograph, and then we picked a couple of sections, just sort of randomly. We picked a section that seemed to have homes not visible from the street, and a couple of sections closer to this property of about 100 homes each, where we calculated the quantities, and that came out to about 2%. So there were 3 samples.
So it really wasn't a canvassing of the entire hamlet, which I think you said was 1,100 homes?
Correct.
It was an examination of selected aerial photographs of some sections of the hamlet.
Correct, about 300 homes.
Because I think the only way you can really tell how many of them are actually visible from the street would be to go around and see how many of them are visible from the street.
Sure.
So I don't know myself as to how accurate that 2% figure is.
Mhm.
It seems like it's just kind of like a guesstimate. But
I-
be it as it may, that's the only questions I have. Mr. Tramarko, you can go forward, or if you
Well,
wanna
you
have-
certainly made
why
a
don't you
good
go
point
forward first,
before.
and then if any other members of the board want to ask any questions along the way, feel free.
Well, I have a question for the department as well. In the last paragraph on the second page, it says that if the BZA determines that the variance should be granted in order to permit a second house, an alternative is to have two lots of the same frontage instead of a front lot and a flag lot, which sounds sensible. You then say this would be better from a safety perspective, but worse from a neighborhood character perspective. Exactly what are you defining as neighborhood character?
The lot frontage. When you look
So-
at Sunken Meadow Road, Bread and Cheese Hollow Road, Crestwood Drive, Bernard Street, I can't remember, Breezy Hill, you know, the vicinity, the portion of Fort Salonga closest to the subject property, there are not many houses on narrow lots.
All right, so essentially you're saying these two houses, if they did that in the alternative, would seem like they were on top of each other.
Correct. The width of lots is greater, so aesthetically, having a house behind a house looks more in keeping with the neighborhood.
And I assume, Mr. Tramarko, you would not want to go with that kind of a division of the lot because it would now mean the demolition, I guess, of the pre-existing house closest to the road.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, the house closest to the road is going to stay, right?
Yes?
And that's where the applicant is going to live? Or
No, the applicant's a developer.
Okay.
What, if we were to deny this application and force them, in a sense, to keep a 2-acre lot, what percentage of properties in Fort Salonga are roughly this size?
Well, I don't think we're denying the application.
Well,
I think
make a-
we have to make a recommendation
Right, if we
to
had
the
to make a rep-
BZA as to
understood.
what they whether or not they should give the variances that the applicant is seeking over there.
If we were to make a negative recommendation that they deny the variance, what percentage of lots in Fort Salonga are in this size range?
That's a good question.
I liked it.
I didn't calculate it, but I would like to volunteer that very few, I'm not sure how many, very few are oversized in Fort. I mean, there are many that are an acre and a half or 1.75, but there are very few 2-acre lots.
I mean, the chairman is right, we're not going to decide this, but what I'm
Right.
grappling with is how much of a burden we're imposing on that owner
Right.
if we recommend that nothing be allowed, in contrast to, you make some very valid points here about safety. Obviously, that is a great concern. I don't want to recommend something be approved and then ultimately, God forbid, there's some disaster there. But I hate to force somebody to keep a 2-acre lot in a community if you were to tell me they're mostly 3/4 of an acre, because that would be
Sure.
unconscionable as well.
I'm just going to raise something else.
Go ahead.
I don't know, there are some statements made in the memo regarding the distance between most of the homes and the curb, and how many of those homes are actually visible from the street or not. I don't know if anybody has an inclination to adjourn it and give us the opportunity to go there and drive around that particular neighborhood. I mean, we've all been in Fort Salonga before, I'm sure, to see for ourselves what the usual or the average distance is from the curb to the houses, and how many of them are actually visible from the street, because it seems like the calculation that the planning department has used, again, was not actually seeing each house, but it was based upon excerpted sections of the hamlet, roughly less than a quarter of the houses, or approximately a quarter of the houses, are in that sampling. Again, I just throw that out there. That might give us some more information to make a conclusion, or to come to a conclusion on this one way or the other. I don't know if anybody else wishes to go do that, but
Well, I actually went there today, and many of the homes are set back. You can't see them from the road. You see just the mailbox and the driveway, because the grading is all over the place, so it's high and low. So a lot of times you just see the mailbox and the driveway kind of go straight up, and then you find houses back there, but you don't see them from the road.
I mean, it's my understanding from, being in the area, that having been through Fort Salonga, that more than 2% of the homes are not visible from the road.
I would agree.
2% is 2 out of 100. I think it's much more than that, my own experience. But in order to have a more refreshed view, everybody could go back there if they want to between now and if it's adjourned, and also to take a look at the 60-foot requirement, because that also seems very small, very slight, or very short distance. I think 60 feet is about from here to the wall, and I think if you drove through Fort Salonga, a lot of the homes would be much further back from the road than that.
I agree.
I'm inclined to agree with that.
So does everybody or anybody wish to have the opportunity to go and do, I guess you could call it sort of like a site inspection, but it's not really a site, it's just to go around the immediate area and see
Area observation.
area observation, or get a refreshed area observation. We all know from having lived here, what it's like in that area, but a recent visit would be the more, up-to-date visit.
Are the 4 members here now all expecting to be at the meeting, the next meeting? Because that would also allow Barbara DeSorb to be here to be a tiebreaker if that became an issue.
Correct, that's why I pointed out to Mr.
Yeah,
Schumacher that we are
absolutely.
missing somebody here tonight and could have a tie.
Yeah, I
And
won't
the
be here.
the four of us are
You
all
will or
planning
I
on.
will not be here next
You
week.
will
we
not.
won't-
I
we
was,
won't
that's
have everybody
that's why I
here
raised
next
that
time
point. I
either.
thought we were down by
Yeah.
one. So then we'd have to adjourn it 2 months if we wanted to avoid that. I don't know
Correct.
if that's a hardship to the applicant.
Well, let's see what he has to say.
Okay, did I hear gentleman on the end say that the next time somebody else is not going to
He's not going to be here.
Who?
I won't be here
Tom
next
at the
meeting.
end.
Okay, so I'll be with 4 again.
Correct, that's what Mr. D'Amato was pointing out to you. If that was a reason to adjourn it, it's not, you're going to have to go beyond July, because in August, we're only going to have 4 people, in July, we're only going to have 4 people too.
Can I ask you about August? Do you know? I mean, only God knows what's really going to happen. but-
That's true. I plan on being here on the August meeting.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had discussed this previously. I raised the question because I remembered one of us might not be here in July, so we're back to 4 for July. I thought all 5 of us were here in August.
I'm not going to be
I'm
away.
here.
So we'll be all 5 in August, barring some extraordinary circumstance.
Don't worry, I'll be here.
I'm not worried. I want you to be here.
We'll all be here.
What do you want to do, Frank?
Whatever, can't we,
Got to
address-
introduce yourself, go ahead.
My name's Frank Ridley. Could we, 95 Smithtown Boulevard, Smithtown, New York. Is there a way we could address some of the concerns? I see all the concerns that are addressable and they are not unsurmountable. I've been a builder for 30 years in Smithtown, and most of Fort Salonga have privacy, and you see the homes behind the woods and the mailbox in the front.
That's kind of my understanding of a lot of that area too, but that's why I want to have maybe the opportunity for everybody to have a chance just to go and get a recent view of that area. But when you say address the concerns, are you talking about verbally responding to the concerns raised by the planning department, or perhaps changing what you want to do to address those concerns?
Well, I think we are in consortium, and even the planning department analysis is in harmony with what we designed, because this thing being discussed with the planning department since 2012, even during Frank DeRubi's days. From a cul-de-sac with a joint driveway, common driveway, to cross easement, to he even asked me to go to the neighbors from the court behind this subdivision that we did not get access from in 1996 when the map was filed. And he told me to go to the neighborhood, see if we could get the buy and access, and it was impossible task. Then I met with him and Blaze in the department, Frank DeRubi's back then, and he said, okay, let's address it as to put it one driveway. Then I met with Mr. Flynn, and in 2014, and we changed it to 2 driveways with 2 curb cuts, and to make it narrow width, and I'm willing to end this thing with a positive recommendation from the board, because this thing, we would not be here if this thing was addressed when 1996 someone addressed the existing non-conforming use of a house in the backyard, and I said after I bought the property, and I thought this has been grandfathered in, and I did not know, because the house was built, the front house was built before the 1927, and I thought it concerned the whole structures, all the structures on the premises. So this is why I overlooked the house in the back. I said, I'm willing to demolish it if we do not lose the lot for the 2-acre parcel that we have. And I think we addressed most of the concern. I said when Mr. Flynn and the people on the board, people in the department, and I'm more than happy to comply if they have a fire hazard. I measured the fire hydrant from the driveway. It's 400 feet to the east, and 550 feet to the west from the driveway. If you feel that additional fire hydrant is needed, I'm willing to put it in to be close, to be right on the property.
Well, if there's going to be changes, that's something that you and your attorney would have to meet with the planning department staff and see if there could be such an agreement on those. But right now, it looks like from the memo that there are 10 variances that are being sought. They're on the bottom of page 1 and the top of page 2 of the memo. And the planning department is recommending that we deny your application. Now, looking at these variances myself, it looks like some of them are relatively de minimis, but maybe 2 of them or so are not that de minimis. So really, sir, it's up to you and your attorney. The planning department is recommending that we deny it. So we could vote on it tonight. We could adjourn it to allow some of us to go there and see if we could confirm some of the information that's in the planning department's memorandum regarding the character of the area and the nature of the area concerning whether the houses, how many houses are behind other houses or how far back from the road they are. Or also, if you are willing to possibly make changes in your application or what you propose to do to address some of their concerns, that's something that's not going to be done tonight. That would have to be done at the office of the planning department, where you and your attorney would have to go there and see if you could work out with them making some changes in what you want to do to accommodate some of their concerns. So I'm willing to let you try to do that, but it's really up to you as to how you want to proceed. You want to consult with your attorney? It's up to you. You want to take a minute? You could.
I think we're leaning towards adjourning it, Mr. Chairman.
Can I ask another question, actually, of the department? Dave mentions in condition or reason 3, a long driveway to a house behind an existing house would create unwarranted noise and fumes adjacent to the existing home on the property and the home to the west. And you've mentioned the neighbors as well. Have we ever had a neighbor express any concern about this? Because certainly nobody's here to speak up.
That's for sure.
Certainly not on this. The department has had complaints in other parts of town.
No, we would just want to know about this particular
no.
application,
Yeah.
because you make reference to the home to the west, and I think Mr. D'Amato's point is well taken, is that
The home
if
to
it
the
was,
west
the
ain't
home to the
here.
west is not here, it
Yeah.
hasn't been here.
Sure. No, I
I
have
mean,
not.
I have to assume the home to the west knows what's going down, and they do not appear to be unhappy with it.
I understand.
Or not unhappy enough to come down and voice their
Correct.
opposition.
Correct.
So, Mr. Tramarko, I don't know if you want to consult with your client further, but if you want to adjourn it, that's fine. However, to avoid the only having 4 people here situation, you would have to go to the August 12th meeting, because July we're going to be only 4 as well. So I leave it up to you as to what you want to do.
The August meeting is when?
August 12th, I believe, correct? We adjourn the wireless facility to that day.
Yes, that's right.
Excuse me for one
Sure,
second.
okay, take your time.
Dave, if we do adjourn, reach out to Barbara so that she's aware, and let her know that we'll be doing, not site inspections, but let's just call area observation. She may wish to
She
do the same.
wants to take a ride up there and take a
Yeah,
look
so when
around.
she comes to the August meeting, she'll be up to speed with the rest of us.
We have half
Yeah,
of
yeah,
August
yeah.
to do it, so I
Yeah,
mean,
that's no question.
might be worth it, the trip just for half hour, 45 minutes. just to
Absolutely,
See,
absolutely.
get a recent view. Just seems at 60 feet from the curb to the house. Seems like, my memory is that most houses in Porcelonga are a lot more than 60 feet from the street. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to take a couple of minutes, and we're going to ask the board
Okay,
to
you know what we
vote
could
on
do
it.
is we could maybe go on to the next matter. I think we do have one more.
Do we?
No? I don't know.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
So what we'll do is, Mr. Tramarko, you can consult with your client.
Okay.
We'll hold this matter in abeyance. We'll recall it when you're ready. In the interim,
Sure.
we'll go on to our next matter and deal with that.
Okay.
Unless is that you also? Oakwood
you-
Valley
are you-
Estates?
No.
Okay.
Would you like it to be you?
I'm sorry?
I don't know who
Would
it
you
is.
like it to be
Well,
you
I
or
don't know
is it
how much
Joe?
we're going to
Okay.
do on it because there's nobody here on it. And it's our policy usually not to take any action on something if the applicant's not here, but let's see what they have to say. Go ahead, Mr. Tramarko. We'll recall this whenever you're done consulting with your client. So let's go on to the next matter and give Mr. Tramarko an opportunity to speak to his client and how they want to proceed on this matter. And the next matter, I think, is the Oakwood Valley Estates matter, but I don't
Yep.
see anybody here.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a waiver request, number 15, 1133 Oakwood Valley Estates, Nesconset. The request is to waive the installation of required sidewalks within the subdivision Oakwood Valley Estates 1133A.
Well, before you read it, I don't see anybody, is there anybody here on behalf of the petitioner on this matter?
And I gather the department hasn't heard from anybody since you're not interjecting.
We
I mean,
adjourned,
before the meeting, obviously.
we haven't heard. We adjourned this earlier too.
Oh, we adjourned it.
Earlier, I don't think they showed up.
You mean it was adjourned
It was
on a
two
prior
meeting-
date?
Two meetings ago. This was up for a prior meeting. Yes.
No, but it wasn't, okay. It wasn't adjourned today. It was adjourned from another
It was
day to
adjourned
today.
till today.
Okay.
Correct.
And is there a representative for the applicant on this case? Do we know?
Not.
Because
I-
rather than have you reading the whole memo, it's usually our policy not to take action on something, certainly granting it, with the applicant not here.
Does the department know if the last time it was adjourned, someone appeared and requested the adjournment or agreed to the adjournment?
No, no one is here.
Even then?
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn this to the next meeting, which would be the July 15th meeting. Since there's nobody here on behalf of the applicant, I would rather have somebody in front of me so that if there are any questions anybody could want to ask after hearing the analysis and the review, or anything that person may want to add, that they could be here to do it. So I don't really wish to proceed on this with nobody here on behalf of the applicant. I would ask, however, that perhaps contact be made with the applicant or their representative and let them know that we're not going to really move forward with the application if they're not going to show up.
I agree.
Maybe they don't know that, but they should.
We have information for why it was adjourned last meeting.
Okay, well, in any event,
All right.
they're not here now. I think it would not be a prudent use of time to go through the whole memo if we're not going to take action on it. And since there's nobody here, I would think it would be fair to give them an opportunity to be here, specifically have them be told that they should be here.
Does the chair want to entertain a motion?
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion myself to adjourn this matter in the matter of a waiver request of Oakwood Valley Estates, number 1133A. I move that we adjourn this matter to the July 15th, 2015 meeting of this board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, so adjourned. I'm just going to request that somebody from the planning department reach out to the applicant or the applicant's representative, if the applicant has a representative, and let them know that it's our practice not to hear or especially grant an application when there's an applicant who's not here. Because sometimes members of the board have questions, and without anybody here, we can't ask those questions. Okay, so we'll go back. Mr. Tramarko, are you ready back on Open Meadow?
I am, and I think we'll proceed tonight.
Okay,
Um,
you go ahead with your presentation then. I don't think you've really got into it yet.
The first thing I'd like to point out, and we've done it a number of times, but it's kind of critical to this whole application. You see Martingale Gate ends up in a cul-de-sac, and it's about 30, 40 feet away from my client's parcel. Had this been moved, and there was no problem moving it at the time, to touch this piece here, then we wouldn't be here tonight, because we would have had access from the back, just as the other lots did. And let me have that, Frank. I'm just going to pass this to the board, and they can...
Sure.
I don't want to break my neck here. If you look at it, you can see that a couple of other lots on Martingale Gate were touched by that road when that subdivision was approved in 1996. So if you touched our lot then, or if the town permitted it, again, we wouldn't be here tonight. With respect to the variances that Mr. Flynn iterates on page 1, reduce the minimum road frontage from 40 to 25. Yeah, that's the pole of the flag, and we all know that that's a necessary variance. Reduce the minimum lot width from 150 to 25. Well, it's kind of a play on words, because even though technically the lot width starts at the setback line, when you really look at this and you get up here,
Most of the lot is much, much wider.
yes, the lot is standard size lot. I believe also in the Flynn report, it says that the house, the setback, the rear yard setback is 75. It's not, it's 100. We changed that, so that's conforming.
And actually, from here, it looks just to the naked eye that the back lot is actually wider than what the existing lot is going to be, the main part of the back lot.
That's right. That's right. And there's another statement in the report that says where the house is, it's not 200 feet. I don't understand that, because if you look at the measurement in the back, it is 200 feet. So perhaps that's just a mistake. So again, we're not asking for a variance for the rear yard on lot number 1, because we're given the full setback of 100 feet. Increase the maximum paving in the front yard from 25 to 40%. I guess, yeah, if you count that long flag, it does come up to that amount. The next one, increase the maximum paving in the side yard from 25 to 89. I don't even understand it, but I think, you're counting this as a front yard and a side yard. You're taking this and you're saying, well, that's really 88% of the side yard of number 1. But what is it, a front yard or a side yard? It's a front yard. We've already asked for that variance. So I don't know that this is 88%. Yeah, I guess if you took this and put it back here, it is, but that's not what's going to happen.
Can we just ask Mr. Flynn if that's what he meant by?
Yes, the 88% is, the side yard begins just past the front yard, which is in 1/4 of the way back of the flagpole.
Lot number 2, reduce the minimum lot width from 150 to 121. Yes, that's correct, and we're asking for that. Reduce minimum side yard depth from 24 to 23. Obviously, that's de minimis, and that's because the house was constructed way before there was zoning, and we're talking about this side.
Well, it's only a foot.
And it's only a foot, right. Reduce minimum lot area from 43,560 to approximately 38,528. And that's correct because we're taking out environmentally sensitive land. But if you look at the Flynn report on the 3rd page, he indicates, and rightly so, and he's being very fair about it, he's saying, you know, that environmentally sensitive land was created, was man-made, and we usually don't count man-made slopes, and that was created right around here when they built that retaining wall many, many years ago. And there is a little bit of incursion here with the construction of the new garage into environmentally sensitive land. But basically, that was all caused by, I don't know, some guy when he built the house many, many years ago, and they built retaining walls without really thinking about a code that would have been passed in the 80s.
Well,
So-
also note that I believe the memo says at the very end, right after the part that you just mentioned, the actual environmentally sensitive land, meaning just the natural slopes, is from 15%, which is where it starts, which is the threshold, to 20%.
Right.
So it's really, again, very minimal in terms of the steep slopes that are naturally occurring because it's barely over the limit.
That's correct, and David does point that out in
Yes, it's right in
his
his memo.
last couple of paragraphs. Now, he says it's a 1.9 acre lot, but then he says it includes that 0.1 acres. So, you know, it's really 2 acres, and because of the environmentally sensitive ordinance, we have to not look at those, that 0.1%. However, that 0.1% is already there. Nobody's going to do anything to it. It was done 75, 100, who knows how many years ago. And we already indicated, and I'm not going to belabor it, but the flag lot, we're asking for this because of the special case of how Martingale Gate was developed many years ago. All we had to do was push that bubble over, whatever it is, 25 or 30 feet, touch that lot, and we wouldn't be here. As you all know, Fort Salonga is a wooded area. It's very rolling and hilly, and I think it's almost common knowledge, and this board could take administrative notice of the fact that there are many houses that are set back more than 60 feet, and even the ones that aren't set back, there are trees and bushes and all kinds of foliage, which creates a situation where the only way you're really going to know a house is there is look for the mailbox. And we're certainly going to have 2 mailboxes on the street. As far as fire safety, the fire department, I think it's Northport Fire or Kings Park Fire Department, they're used to Fort Salonga, and they know what they're doing. And God forbid there's a fire, they'll know where to go. Mr. Caridley did indicate that he would put another fire hydrant in, but the closest one is only 400 feet away. I've seen firemen run hoses a lot longer than that in record time, if you will. Now, again, a house in the rear would reduce the privacy of the house in the front. There are trees, there's foliage, there's all natural buffers between the 2 houses. And you can see the way the lot is set up. Look how far, I can't measure it, but this is the house, and this is the other house here. And look at all of this distance. I don't think it would have any effect at all. Many, many houses in Fort Salonga, you don't see these large spreading lawns. You see more trees and bushes rather than an unfoliated green lawn. Now, one of the cases before you tonight was Catherine Estates. That's a flag lot. It was a flag lot in 2010 when we applied. I happen to represent him. And Mr. Hickey got approval from this board, and it's a flag lot. And that flag lot is a heck of a lot shorter. It probably, the whole lot isn't more than 300 feet deep, maybe 350 feet. This lot is gigantic in comparison. What is it, 800 feet, Frank? I think the lot's about 800 feet. I got to look at the survey, but the board has it before them, and I don't want to.
A quick question on Catherine Estates. What was the width of the driveway or the right-of-way?
I'm sorry?
What was the width? I hear you're going 25 feet width. What was the width on Catherine Estates? I don't have the map in front of me.
I believe it was 10, maybe 15 feet. It's the only benefit, and I could say that on one side of Catherine Estates there was a cemetery, so there wasn't any house there, and on the other side there was a house. I think the driveway was about 10 or 15 feet, but I don't remember.
Do you recall? Oh, no.
I wasn't working on subdivisions at that time. I don't know what it is.
Okay. How long is the lot? You can see that in the proposed lot configuration, Mr. Caridley has added trees on both sides of that driveway, and David Flynn pointed out a couple of things that I didn't think of to our benefit, that even with a narrow driveway and a Belgian block curb or no curbs, if there were two cars coming down, one car could pull aside on a shoulder, which is about 3 feet or 3.5 feet on each side. As far as snow plowing, he indicated that, hey, you can plow the snow off to the side on the shoulder, so that wouldn't be a terribly detrimental thing to the configuration of the lot. And finally, he did again say, really, it's only a 20% environmentally sensitive land that has any new effect that we're going to go into because of where the garage is. The rest of it was there for many years. So given all of these circumstances, and given the fact that, you know, we didn't create this hardship, this is something that occurred many years ago for whatever reason. Usually when maps like this are created, the planning board tries to make sure that they don't landlock pieces of property of this size. But it happened here. We don't know why. We're trying to correct it the best way we can. So we asked the board to send a favorable recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals and let us get on with this application. Thank you.
Okay, just two other things, if I may, before we go to the next step. One is there's a reference in reason number 4 at the very end of the recommendation as to why the planning department is recommending a denial. And it says, a flag lot would tend to increase the potential for non-compliance with zoning, i.e. multifamily residence and/or business land uses. Regarding that, I think we should note that I don't believe we're being asked here to approve or disapprove what is repeatedly referred to as a flag lot, however someone wants to define that. We're being asked to recommend approval or denial of a request for 10 variances, which are listed at the end of page 1 and at the top of page 2. So we're not being asked to approve or disapprove a lot. We're being asked to recommend that either BZA approve these specific 10 variances or deny these specific 10 variances. Is that correct?
I don't think so, because the petition, the application that's before you is this drawing, and this drawing requires those variances, and if those variances are granted, then this is what happens.
I mean, these variances are integral to the creation of the flag lot. So if we approve or recommend the approval of the variances, we're approving or recommending the approval of the flag lot. That
In
is
essence,
what-
yeah, I mean, if the variances are granted, the result will be the flag lot. And I'm not
Correct.
trying to persuade you to vote
Now,
no.
on that,
Right,
on
right.
that,
Okay.
on that point,
Just make
you
that clear.
the recommendation says that if a, quote, flag lot, unquote, is granted, or if the application is granted, a flag lot would increase the potential for non-compliance with zoning, i.e. multifamily residences. Can you explain that? In other words, if we recommend that these variances be granted on this particular piece of property in Fort Salonga, how that would affect another application for multifamily residence, perhaps in some other part of the town? Is that what you're saying there?
No, not in other parts of the town. Properties that are not visible from the street tend to be the ones that the building department and the Department of Public Safety have more problems with relative to zoning compliance. They tend to have illegal multiple occupancies or
Or in other words,
businesses
you're
on
saying that allowing a house to be back from the street would make it more likely than not otherwise for people to have a multifamily home there, perhaps a business use there, because it's back from the street and can't be seen.
Right, not more often than not, but more often
More
than other-
likely than it would be otherwise.
otherwise, yes, yeah.
But
more-
also, I think we have, one of our members tonight said that in Fort Salonga, a lot of the houses are back from the street, and that's my understanding of the area too, from the times that I've been up there. But, okay, I understand, it's not, you're not saying that it's gonna increase the likelihood of these types of things in other parts of the town, that it's more likely to happen in that situation than in a situation where the home is visible from the street.
Correct.
But we don't know one way or the other whether it
A-
actually is
absolutely.
going to happen here or not.
Absolutely, it's not a foregone
Right.
conclusion that it would happen.
Right. Okay.
No, that's just a comment on it. Of course, that's speculation. It's like saying if you build a high ranch house, the chances of it becoming a two-family are much
I
more
understand.
likely than.
That's why I wanted
colonial.
clarification, because I read it a little bit differently.
Which, of course, is illegal if anybody does that, so. Anyway, thank you.
All right, well, it's now time to move to the next step. And having heard everything, actually, I would have a motion that the planning board recommend that the Board of Zoning Appeals grant the requested variances. And with respect to, well, for some of the following reasons. One, I do question the accuracy of a finding that only 2% of the homes in Fort Salonga are not visible from the road, as well as most homes being only 60 feet from the street. Also, I question reason number 1 in the memo regarding the potential slower response of emergency vehicles because it would be difficult to see from the street, noting that I have reason to believe that a lot of the homes in that area are not visible from the street. Reason number 2 for denial talks about reducing the privacy from the front lot and the lot to the west. And in my opinion, the person's most in the best position to speak on what the effect would be on the lot to the west would be the people who live in the lot to the west, and none of them are here.
I find that curious also.
Number 3, it also says that a long driveway behind the house would create unwarranted noise and fumes to the adjacent home, and again to the property, the home in the home to the west. Again, the person's to me, in the best position to speak on what effect this would have on the home to the west would be the people from the home to the west who are not here. And I think number 4 is complete speculation in that he's saying that if the home is not visible from the street, the likelihood in general is that that gives rise to multifamily residences and or business land uses. There's no assertion that we have any information that if we approve this application, there's going to be a multifamily residence back there or a business use back there. So for these reasons, it's my motion that the planning board recommend that the Board of Zoning Appeals grant the variances, also noting that with respect to the issue of environmentally sensitive land, it's been noted that the environmentally sensitive land in question, the slopes range from 15% to 20%, which is barely above the 15% threshold. So for these reasons, my motion is that the planning board recommend to the BZA that they grant these requested 10 variances. And do I have a second on that motion?
What about the on-site, about us going to see that? We're precluded from doing that.
No,
by
well,
voting on it.
They wanted to
well,
motion tonight.
I would.
I thought you had an excellent point.
I
of
would
us going
prefer to
there.
do that, but Mr. Tramarko has indicated he wants us to go forward tonight. He's conferred with his client, and he said he wants to go forward tonight.
Because I certainly sympathize with them, but not every parcel deserves to be subdivided. And I would like to go and see this, because on paper, it doesn't look as good as some of the other projects I'm sure this applicant did over the last 30 years.
I think I then, what we can then do is I'm going to withdraw my motion at this time. And just because he's not requesting an adjournment doesn't mean that we can't adjourn it anyway. If we feel we need to go out there and take a look at it ourselves so we can come back better educated and make a more informed decision.
I have to confess, I'm inclined to agree with Conrad. I mean, it's a back and forth thing. It's very difficult. Nobody wants to force somebody to keep a 2-acre lot in an area where a lot of lots are smaller than 2 acres. No one wants to create a safety hazard. Members of the board don't necessarily want to reject the recommendation of the department.
Right, but
How do we, I mean, I will be honest with you, 2% not visible from the street doesn't sound likely to me either, but I haven't driven past this property and the surrounding
All
area.
right, so then I think that it is a prudent thing to do then. I'm going to withdraw my application
The motion.
with my motion that we approve it, and I'm going to make another motion that we adjourn it to the July 15th meeting to give all of the board members, including myself, an opportunity to go back up to that area and focus on this specific area of where this application is.
Do you want to stay with July 15? Because if we're adjourning and we go out to August.
Well, I think what we should do, I would like to adjourn it to July 15th, and if we can't deal with it at that point for some reason, we could always adjourn it from then to August.
Okay. Okay. I mean, certainly in the
Unless,
interim,
Mr.
we're gonna see the
Tramarko,
site.
unless you'd rather have us adjourn it right to August now.
No, I think we can adjourn it to July.
Okay.
I think the gentleman on the end has got, he's heard the case, so even if he's not here, he
Well, we
could
can't
vote.
vote, though, if
We
he's
can't
not
vote
here.
then. Yeah,
Well,
that's the
he could
problem.
vote the next time, if
We
need
can't vote-
be, in
can't vote in
August.
July.
I don't know. Do
Well,
it for
no, I
July.
mean, basically, he won't be here, and he won't be voting. It'll be the 4 of us who are here. So again, if you want to go to August, we'll go to August. If you'd rather go to July, we'll go to July.
I'll go to July.
Okay, so then my motion then would be to adjourn this matter to the July 15th, 2015 meeting of this board to allow members of the board to go out to the site and the surrounding area and view for ourselves what the surrounding area is like in terms of how many homes are visible from the street or not and how far they are set back from the street, and therefore make a more informed decision when we do vote on this, most likely on July 15th. So that's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? So adjourned to
Mr.
July
Tramarko-
15th.
Mr. Tramarko, can I ask the street address of the current residence?
The address of the property?
Correct.
What's the street address?
9
Nine.
Sunken Meadow Road?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so the matter will be on July 15th. Those of us who want to go out there and take a look at the area for ourselves between now and then can do that, and then I think we'll have a more informed board when we vote on it.
I assume the applicant has no problem if we go on-site,
We can walk the property.
including walk to the back?
Oh, sure, there is a log cabin in the back.
Well, I won't be staying overnight or anything. I'm just going to see the site, but thank you.
Just bring your ID.
Yes, I tried that already, couldn't get into the
Take
hamlet.
your maps back. You can take all these things back if you want. No,
I'm more than happy to meet you there.
No, I mean,
no, we'll all go out there, because
Yeah.
we're not going to probably go out there together. We're going to go out there individually.
I just don't want them to become defensive, that's all.
Well, I have my ID with me anytime I go on-site. I don't want to, I agree with Mr. Chase. We really probably should see this before we make a judgment.
Well, I hope you do, because, you know, the cabin in the back was built before my days, and I could understand the concern.
So you have to, or the hearing is, the matter's been adjourned, so you can speak more if you want, but you should do it into the microphone so that it gets on the record.
But I think we're okay. I think we understand.
It's okay.
Okay, have a good
Thank you.
night. We'll
Have
see
a
you
good
next month.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have, I move that we adopt the minutes of the May 20th, 2015 and June 3rd, 2015 meetings.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, opposed, none, so adopted. We're done, right?
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So adjourned. We're adjourned for the evening.